We're about to take a close look at an object that is so small and so incredibly common that most of us barely even notice it. And yet, this tiny little tool is arguably one of the most important inventions in all of human history. We are talking about the needle. And trust me, its story is absolutely incredible. So let's just start with the big question, right? How on earth did a tiny, pointed piece of bone and later metal not only help us survive, but actually enable us to spread across and eventually populate the entire planet? To really get its importance, we've got to rewind the clock, way back. Let's go back, say, 40,000 years. Early humans are scattered all over the globe, and they're living a really precarious existence in a world that was definitely not designed for them.
I mean, just think about the fundamental mismatch here. Animals, they had fur, they had claws, and all these natural adaptations to their environment. Humans, well, we had none of that. Physically, we were weak and totally vulnerable. But we had one game-changing advantage: a sharp problem-solving intellect.
Now, our intellect led to some pretty cool things like hunting tools and spears and, of course, the control of fire. But our biggest, most relentless enemy wasn't some saber-toothed tiger. Nope, it was the environment itself. The biting cold, the torrential rain, the scorching sun, it made huge parts of the world simply uninhabitable for our fragile species.
So how do you solve a problem like the weather? Well, our ancestors found a brilliant and honestly really elegant solution. A simple need sparked a truly world-changing invention.
And the logic behind it is beautifully simple. First, you hunt an animal. Great, you can use its skin for warmth, but just draping it over your shoulders is clumsy and super inefficient. Then you realize, hey, I need to join pieces together to create actual fitted clothing. And to do that, you need a new tool. And boom, the needle is born.
And get this wasn't some recent invention. While the practice itself is probably way older, the oldest physical needles ever discovered by archaeologists are a staggering 25,000 years old. I mean, think about that. This is one of humanity's original technologies.
So what did these ancient tools even look like?
Well, they were carved from bone or wood, but forget a modern eye hole. Instead, they had this little hook at one end, almost like a tiny crochet hook. And the thread? It was anything you could get your hands on: grass, plant fibers, even animal sinew. And this is crucial. They weren't just for clothes. Evidence suggests they were absolutely vital for making shoes to protect feet from rough terrain, which you could argue was even more important for survival.
Of course, this brilliant tool didn't just stay a piece of bone. It evolved. It was refined over thousands of years, all around the globe.
This journey of innovation is just fascinating. From those early hooked bone needles, we see improvements everywhere. The Egyptians, for example, created ceramic needles with an eye in the middle so you could sew from either end. The Romans forged bronze needles that look a lot like our own, and maybe most remarkably, steel needles appeared in India over 3,500 years ago. They were even mentioned in ancient medical texts for surgery.
But you have to remember, before the Industrial Revolution made them cheap and common, every single needle was made by hand. This made them incredibly valuable and really expensive. People kept them in protected cases made of wood, metal, or even ivory. And women in medieval Europe would often wear these cases right on their belts to keep them safe.
But here's the thing, this wasn't just about making clothes. Not even close. The invention of the needle was part of a much bigger technological leap forward, one that historians and archaeologists believe fundamentally reshaped all of human society. They even have a name for it. It's called the String Revolution. What a great name, right? The term really captures the massive impact of all these fiber technologies. Suddenly, with needles, we could create tailored, multi-layered clothing that allowed us to migrate into the coldest Ice Age climates. We could make nets for fishing, ropes for building. It just fundamentally changed our relationship with the entire world.
And you know, the importance of all this was not lost on our ancestors. I absolutely love this quote from the 11th century philosopher Al-Ghazali. Think about it. 1,000 years ago, he saw the complex 25-step process of making a single needle in Persia as a perfect example of advanced manufacturing and societal cooperation.
So, when you boil it all down, the needle's impact really rests on three massive pillars. First, survival. It let us conquer new environments. Second, art. It gave birth to these beautiful forms of embroidery all around the world, from Zardozi to Fukari in India. And third, society. It literally spurred complex manufacturing and global trade networks.
Okay, so where does that leave the needle today? Well, its story is far from over. In fact, you could say it's just as vital now as it was 25,000 years ago.
Today, that original hooked piece of bone has evolved into this entire family of specialized tools. We've got our domestic needles for repairs, crochet hooks for textiles, these massive darning needles for heavy-duty work, and of course, the incredibly fine-tuned surgical needles that literally save lives every single day.
And that is the incredible through line here.